All right. Welcome in. Mount Polumbus Speaks here. A little post-game reaction off of that drunk football game that the Denver Broncos were able to win. The Broncos were able to escape, and I'm going to use that word, escape 31-13 in a game which on the scoreboard screams absolute domination from the Broncos. And I suppose at the end of the day, that's what it was. It was a dominating win, but holy crap, for a team that didn't even have 200 yards on offense, for a team that had an abysmal start offensively, for a team that had an abysmal start defensively, for a team that had three interceptions in that game, not one, not two, but three interceptions from Bo Nix in that game. That was a hell of a win. What can I say? I'll take it. A win's a win's a win. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you get there. The Broncos got it done. It was a game in which I was this close to throwing the remote through my TV about 115 different times. If you're listening to my live stream during the game, you know I was absolutely losing my mind. I was pulling my hair out. I mean, that game was bad ball of epic proportions from both sides. Epic proportions amount of bad ball going on. I mean, you're talking about two teams that did not deserve that game for a long time. Quite frankly, there was a point in that game that I literally tweeted out, just call it a tie, man, because neither one of these teams deserved to win the football game. But I'll give the Broncos credit. Defensively, they started to figure things out. Defensively, they made a few big plays. And offensively, although Bo Nix had a really bad game, I'll give him credit. He hung in there. And when it was all said and done, he had a couple nice throws at the end of the game that he gets to walk away feeling good about. I think that nice little touchdown throw at the end of the game from Sean Payton was big for Bo Nix mentally. You could tell that Bo Nix was in a fragile state of mind. I mean, I'm not trying to call the young man out because he's coming off of a great run. Bo Nix has been playing fantastic football, but that was bad ball. Look, man, there are not very many games that you win after two interceptions, yet alone three interceptions. But when you play Anthony Richardson, crazy things happen. I mean, that was the epitome of an Anthony Richardson football game. He starts out on fire with his feet, picks up a big touchdown. Crowd goes nuts for the Colts fans that were there. And slowly but surely, Anthony Richardson just absolutely fell apart. Matter of fact, by the end of the day, his stat line looked pretty terrible. 17 of 38, 172 yards, and two touchdowns. Bo Nix's stat line, his was 20 of 33, 130 yards, three touchdowns, but also three interceptions. So those were two quarterbacks, two young quarterbacks. I thought it was ironic that we found out during that game that both quarterbacks were making their 14th start of their career. Anthony Richardson was in year two, Bo Nix obviously in year one, and neither one of them had it today. But you know what? It's a win. And we know what that does for the Broncos' odds of making the playoffs. Be going into that game, if the Broncos won, they were going to have an 89% chance of making the playoffs. If they lost that game, it dropped all the way down to 47% chance of making the playoffs. They won. The Chargers got their brains beat out of them by Tampa Bay today. So both things went in the Broncos' favor today. Got a big week next week on a Thursday night against the Chargers, a game that I was really, really worried about, and I still am, despite what happened today against Tampa Bay for the Chargers. I'm still worried about that game, but I feel a whole lot less concerned today than I did yesterday after that ass kicking that the Kansas City Chargers, excuse me, that the Los Angeles Chargers received. So, anyways, back to this Broncos game. Man, that first half was as rough as it gets. And I'll say this defensively, every time we get away from what our DNA is, and the DNA of this Denver Broncos football team is a blitz heavy team, it's man pressure. Every time they get away from that, bad things seem to happen. It happened against Lamar Jackson. It happened against Jameis Winston a bit. I know last week we got absolutely destroyed with Riley Moss out. They make a change at corner this week. Damari Mathis gets the start. And shout out to Chris Abrams Drain, who stepped up a young player in his rookie season that had two really big plays in that game. Not a ton of big plays, but two at the corner spot feels like a fantastic game. So shout out to Chris Abrams-Drain. But back to the defensive approach from the Broncos. I don't know why they were going with these four-man pressures for almost the entirety of the first half. In the second half, they started to amp up the pressure a little bit more, but Anthony Richardson is a quarterback that coughs it up. I mean, every time Bo Nix threw an interception in this game, my only saving grace was that I knew that Anthony Richardson was going to do something equally dumb or more. And it turned out to be the case. I mean, that was exactly what happened in that game. Bo Nix tosses 3 interceptions, but Anthony Richardson tosses 2. And the Colts had one of the biggest brain farts you've ever seen. I mean, thank God. Thank God Jonathan Taylor decided to pull the old drop the ball an inch short of the end zone. Thank God for that, which, by the way, I don't know about you guys. I watched that replay about 150 times, and that ball looked like it crossed the plane to me before it left his hand. He was reaching the ball out, but I swear, dude, that ball was still securely in his hand by the time that ball broke the plane. Goes in the Broncos' favor, and after that, the Broncos are able to capitalize. We're not able to capitalize, and that's what was driving me the most nuts about this game, man. I mean, the amount of sudden change opportunities that the Broncos had that they did not take advantage of is insane. From that moment and doing nothing with it, from getting a turnover from the Colts when they were down in the red zone and the Broncos do absolutely nothing. I mean, not even get a first down, go 3 and out, don't even get a chance to flip the field. When you don't take advantage of sudden change moments at a football game, you usually lose the game. I don't know if any of you guys play Madden, but there's a little cheat code in the Madden algorithm that after a big interception, after a fumble, throw the ball deep because the algorithm's going to help you out. If you take a play action shot down the field after a big sudden change, the algorithm in Madden says you're going to catch the ball because they want to punish you for the bad play previously. And that's what you're supposed to do. The Broncos weren't able to do that. The Colts gave you opportunity after opportunity after freaking opportunity, and all the Broncos did was absolutely nothing with all of those sudden change moments. But look, man, the score screams domination. And if you're watching any other game, you flip over, you check out the score of the Denver Broncos, and you see a game in which the Broncos won 31-13, you're going to think, all right, that was an ass kicking from the Broncos. And I'll give you this. For a young team that is figuring things out, they figured out how to win an ugly, messy game. And I give them credit for that, and I'm being sincere. I was frustrated as hell in that football game, believe me. But you know what's harder than anything else? Actually winning a game in which all those things go against you. Winning a game in which you have 3 interceptions. Winning a game in which you have opportunity after opportunity to capitalize on sudden change, and you're not capable of actually capitalizing on that sudden change. They said on the broadcast that the Broncos are the first team this year to win a game by 10 points despite posting less than 200 yards of offense. It's hard to win any game when you post less than 200 yards of offense, yet alone winning a game by 10 plus points. And the Broncos did that with ease. Vegas had this game as a 3.5 point favorite for the Denver Broncos. Sorry, I'm watching the Seahawks game over there. Sam Howell's in. That's fascinating. Vegas had this game as a 3.5 point favorite for the Denver Broncos. And despite what looks like a shutout, I think the line was very, very accurate. They're pretty similar teams. The Colts are got to be the most frustrating team in the NFL for that fan base because they're not very good, but they're not very bad. They're a 6-8 football team that at the end of every game generally has an opportunity to win it. Not this one. They didn't have an opportunity to win this one, but give a shout out to our guy, Nick Bonito. How much money is Nick Bonito going to make? All of the monies. Nick Bonito is going to get all of the monies. I know a lot of people out there are wondering why the Broncos haven't given an extension to Nick Bonito. Why did Jonathan Cooper get it first? Well, that's because Nick Bonito is in his rookie deal. And according to the CBA, you are not even allowed to approach a player for a contract extension until after the completion of their third season. So this is Nick Bonito's third season. Come the off season, it's open season. I would 100% expect the Denver Broncos to approach Nick Bonito as soon as they possibly can, because you do not want Nick Bonito to be able to taste free agency. If he gets the free agency, he's going to make all of the money and more. Now, you do always have the franchise tag, so you can tag him. You can guarantee that you have him for at least 2 more years, but Broncos aren't going to worry about that. They're going to reward him because he deserves it. Nick Bonito sniffed out that the world's worst trick play from the Colts. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it took me 0.2 seconds to realize that that was a trick play from the from the backward slash kind of lateral pass to the wide receiver, to the wide receiver stepping back, fumbling with the ball, trying to get it in his hands to where he could actually throw it, and then throwing up an absolute loaf back to Anthony Richardson. It was one of the worst designed trick plays I've ever seen. And I'll give Nick Bonito credit for this because he was away from the original pass and he was engaged with the offensive tackle. And what a lot of defenders do in this league, anytime the ball gets that far away from you, you kind of shut it down. Well, Nick Bonito stayed engaged, he sniffed it out, and he got one of the easiest pick sixes he's ever going to get in his career. And he also gets a shout out for getting the first ever, oh God, I can't remember how they called it now. What do they call it? Illegal. God dang it. What did they call that? I can't remember what they called it. It wasn't unsportsmanlike. They had a funny name for it. If you can remember it, send it in. I know all you guys are watching right now on Twitter and YouTube, but I can see your texts and your tweets. So send it in if you remember what they actually called it, because it was a funny name for that penalty. Nick Bonito pulled the Marshawn Lynch, hold my dick. I can say that because I'm on a podcast, and he got a flag for it, which hundreds of players have done that before, and nobody ever gets a flag for it. Nick Bonito got one, whatever. Honestly, we've got nothing to complain about with the refs in this game, because if anything, the flags went in the favor of the Denver Broncos all day long. Here's the problem. Broncos have got an issue, and I mean a big time issue with their run game. I mean, come on, man. What an abysmal performance from the Denver Broncos running game. When it's all said and done, let's see. When it's all said and done, the Broncos had 121 yards on the ground, but that's rather misleading. Look, Bo Nix was your leading rusher in that game. And anytime your quarterback is your leading rusher, you got a problem. Bo Nix didn't even have a crazy amount of yards on the ground. He had 23, which is where I would like to see him live about every single game. I'd love to see Bo Nix live between 15 and 20 yards. I don't need him getting me 70 yards. Actually, the last 3 or 4 games, he has not been running the ball as much previously. I'm going to pull it up here really quickly. Bo Nix stats. If you look at his rushing attempts or his rushing yardage from the last few games, it was really, really low. Okay, let's see. Rushing yards for the previous games going into this. Against Cleveland, Bo Nix had 4 yards. Against the Raiders, he had 5 yards. Against Atlanta, he had 5 yards. Against Kansas City, he had -5 yards. I would love to see Bo Nix live about 15 to 20 yards every single game, pick up 2 to 3 first downs on third down with your feet. That's ideal. So that's cool. I'm down with Bo Nix getting 20 yards. South Stand says, I thought Estime McLaughlin would tear it up today, but I was way wrong. Yeah, you know what, buddy? You and me both. You and me both. Javonte Williams continues to be in the doghouse as he deserves to be. If you look at Javonte Williams' stats from the last few games, it doesn't even scream a dude that belongs in the NFL. And I like Javonte Williams a lot, so I'm not trying to dog on the young man. But when you look at this Indianapolis Colts defense, shoot, they're ranked 29th overall. And guess what they were second to worst in the NFL? They're ranked 31st in the NFL in rush defense. They give up 147 yards per game on the ground. And our guys, pathetic. Jaleel McLaughlin was 7 for 21. After halftime, he had like 9 yards. Javonte Williams ended up 6 for 15. Audric Estime, 5 for 13. And Marvin Mims had 1 carry for 0 yards. They got to get this fixed, man, because when you got a quarterback that's rattled like Bo Nix was in this game, you've got to run the damn football. You're going up against the second worst rushing defense in the NFL. Folks, what do you say about it? Look, the Broncos are telling you they believe in their offensive line. That's what the money would tell you. The Broncos have paid every single member of that offensive line except for their center. The right tackle, big money. Right guard, big money. Quinn Miners, by the way, got banged up in that game. Last thing we need is Quinn Miners going down. Fortunately, he was able to come back. Your center is the only one that has not gotten paid big money. Ben Powers, big money. Garrett Bowles, big money. Matter of fact, if you guys missed the news, Garrett Bowles just got a 4-year extension this week. It was a 4-year deal worth up to $80-some million. And in reality, what it works out to, it's a 2-year, $41 million deal, which is perfect. There's currently, going into this, before Garrett, there were 7 tackles in the NFL making $20 million or more per year. Garrett Bowles is now the 8th tackle to be making $20 million or more per year. And the best part about the deal is it's really only a 2-year commitment. Garrett Bowles is he's at age 33. He'll be 35 years old by the time you get to the out part of the contract where there's no more guaranteed money. But I digressed on all of that. My point is the Broncos are telling you they think they've got a good offensive line. Leo asks, is that no line issue or running back lack of talent issue? Well, it's never as simple as one or the other. Obviously, the running game goes hand in hand, but we don't got a dude like Jonathan Taylor, do we? We don't got a dude like Saquon Barkley, do we? See, Jonathan Taylor's having a weird year. Coming into the game, Jonathan Taylor had 804 yards, which is obviously really good. He's looking at a 1,000-yard year. Matter of fact, let me see, how many yards did he have in this game? He had 107 yards in this game. So he's already over 900 yards on the season. He's absolutely going to have a 1,000-yard year. But the weird thing about Jonathan Taylor is that he has not had a ton of big plays this year, outside of this game in which he very dumbly dropped the ball before he crossed the plane. He has not had a ton of big plays. But what does Jonathan Taylor do? He gets 4 to 5 yards every freaking time he touches the rock. His average in this game was 4.9 every time he touched the ball. That makes life easy as a play caller. That makes life easy on a young quarterback, especially a young quarterback that is struggling like Anthony Richardson is. Damn, it would be nice for the Broncos to get a running back. Javonte Williams has been so frustrating this year because he's had some games where he's looked phenomenal, but there's more bad games than there are good games, and the bad games are really, really bad. I thought Audric Estime would be the lead dog this week. It was not Audric Estime. After the first half, I don't even know if Audric had a carry. If he did, it was 1. He started to get more carries in the second half. Jaleel McLaughlin is the guy, and I love Jaleel McLaughlin. Don't get me wrong. I've got a spot on my football team for that dude every single year, and I want him getting plenty of touches, but he's not a workhorse. Jaleel McLaughlin's not a starting running back. Jaleel's a liability in the passing game, and he's not a between-the-boxes runner. The South Stand says Javonte's not been the same since he tore his ACL. That's a sad reality, man. It is. That's a sad reality. Sometimes you never come back from injury. I feel like we all take it for granted in today's day and age with the technology that we've got, and guys come back quicker and quicker from injury. Javonte never has looked the same, has he? And Javonte's time in the NFL is going to be coming to an end here pretty quickly. He'll probably bounce around for another year or two as a backup running back. It won't be here with the Denver Broncos, but the Broncos got to find some help there. Not a fan of drafting running backs high in the draft, but damn, it would be nice if you get Ashton Jeanty in this year's draft. You won't be able to get him because the Broncos are going to be a playoff team, knock on wood, unless they absolutely blow this thing. The Broncos are going to be a playoff team, and you won't even be close to firing range to get Ashton. But they'll have to figure out something in the draft because you don't want to, when you get running backs in free agency, you got to overpay for them. You never want to overpay for aging running backs. There's the dude out of Arizona State, Scatabo. If you guys like old school bruising running backs, Mike Allstott. Think Mike Allstott from Tampa Bay, one of almost every fan. He's a fan favorite from almost every fan in the NFL. That's what Scatabo is. Scatabo is a bruising running back. I'd love to see the Broncos be able to pick him up in the third round, maybe the fourth round, something like that. We'll see if he lasts that long. But when you get to the offseason, because you have now addressed Garrett Bowles at left tackle, you've got the luxury in the draft of selecting the best weapon you can find. They will draft an offensive player in the first round, mark my words. Probably going to be a wide receiver, maybe a running back, maybe a tight end, but probably going to be a wide receiver. I'm a huge fan of Courtland Sutton. Huge fan of Courtland Sutton. And although Courtland did not have a great game today against the Colts, he only had 32 yards. Courtland Sutton has been an animal this year, and he has played his way into a new contract for the Broncos. Look, he's Bo Nix's whoopee. He's his safety blanket. And although most people would tell you Courtland Sutton is not a true number one, he's our number one, and he's a really important player on this team. You got any other wide receivers that you love? Courtland Sutton coming into this game had been on an absolute tear. Against the Browns, 102 yards. Raiders, 97. Falcons, 78. Chiefs, 70. Ravens, 122. Panthers, 100. He's having a fantastic year. Courtland's actually got one more year on his contract, but he's not going to be happy playing on the number that it is. So we'll have to give Courtland Sutton a new deal in the offseason as well, and I hope that they do it. But the Broncos will likely go get a wide receiver in the draft to help them out. Let's see. Somebody says, Tyler, do you think Sean rests both Surtain and Moss to let them get more rest and take the L on Thursday, then have them come back against Cincinnati? Well, first off, I don't think Riley Moss is going to be back either way. I knew he wasn't going to be back for this game, and given that next week is on a short week, Thursday Night Football against the Chargers, almost zero chance you get Riley Moss back. Pat Surtain, why was he back in the game in this one? That's my question. You had the game all but in the bag. He had an ankle injury, and you put him back out there. Why? He bangs it up a little bit more. Let's cross our fingers, hope and pray that he'll be okay. It didn't look overly serious, but why'd you put Pat Surtain back in the game when he's banged up and you've got the game in the bag? I don't get that. I don't get that at all. He's too valuable, man. You can't risk it. So to answer your question, I don't think Riley Moss will be playing in the game. And yeah, I probably would rest Pat Surtain. So it's funny you say just take the L on Thursday night, because I kind of think that's what the Broncos are doing. First off, I think you can beat the Chargers. So I'm not writing that game off by any means. And especially after the ass kicking they took today against Tampa Bay. But if you kind of read between the tea leaves, the Broncos did something weird, something I don't agree with. They agreed, and I do put that in, not even in quotations. I do emphasize that word agree. They agreed to flex their game into Thursday Night Football on the road. They did not have to do that. The league could not require them to do that. The Broncos have already played a game on Thursday night on the road, and in order to get them to play again, the league had to ask the Broncos for permission to put them in that spot. The Broncos did it, and the sales, the pitch coming out of the PR staff after the Broncos agreed to flex this game into Thursday night was that it gives the team more time to prepare for Cincinnati. So if you read the tea leaves, what the team was telling you, they are emphasizing that Bengals game as the most important game left on the schedule. You got 3 games left. You probably got to win one more to make the playoffs. There is a world in which the Broncos actually could lose the final 3 games and still make the playoffs, but that's a bad feeling. Even if you do sneak in, you don't want to get into the playoffs doing that. So despite the fact that they still might be able to make the playoffs, You got to win one of these games, and you do got to win one more if you want to guarantee yourself a path to the playoffs. So the Broncos flex themselves into a road game on Thursday night. What history would tell you is the hardest thing to do, winning on the road on Thursday night. And what the PR staff is telling you is it gives you time to prep for the Bengals game. Do the math. Follow the drum beats. Where's it going to lead you? It's leading you to say the team's okay if they lose that Chargers game, and they're emphasizing that Bengals game as the most important game left. I don't like that. I don't like flirting with the karma gods. I don't like emphasizing a game against the Bengals and being like, yeah, we can win that game. Dude, the Bengals are a damn good football team. Don't come at me with that record. You know who their quarterback is? Do you watch them in December? You don't want to play the Bengals in December. So I do not like the fact that the Broncos flexed into Thursday night. I think this Chargers game is winnable. It would feel a whole lot more winnable if they had a full week. It would feel a whole lot more winnable. Am I doing all right there? Does that work in English? A whole lot more winnable? I'll continue anyways. It would feel a whole lot more winnable if you had Pat Surtain and if you had Riley Moss. And it would feel a whole lot better if you had a resemblance of a running game. So look, man, it was a good win. I'm fired up about the record. I'm fired up where the Broncos sit today. The NFL playoff picture is getting more and more clear, and the Broncos are in great shape right now. The Chargers got the loss. You got the win. You are currently, according to NFL.com, okay, so that's interesting. I was wondering if the Chargers loss changed anything for the Broncos' odds of making the playoffs. It did, very slightly. They were supposed to have an 89% chance of making the playoffs if they won this game, and now it says the Broncos have a 91% chance of winning the game. You've got a bunch of teams that are on the bubble. The Colts are on the bubble at 6-8. You just beat them. I don't think the Colts are going to win a whole lot more games. Be shocked if they found a way to find their way into the playoffs. Dolphins are sitting at 6-8. What happened with the Dolphins today? Let me look that up. Dolphins got beat by the Texans 20-12. So they lost their game, and then you got the Bengals at 6-8. The Bengals are very much alive in the playoff race. Very much alive. But the team has emphasized that game as the most important game. So, bad game. Bad, great game. I don't know any other way to put it. That was the worst, best win I've ever seen for the Broncos because of what it meant for this team. You got a whole lot of crap you got to clean up, man. Broncos got to get in that film room, and they got to figure some things out defensively. They got to figure some things out offensively. Bo Nix needs to settle down. The one thing that Bo Nix has done very, very well this season is protect the football. He did not do that today. And what you can't do in this league is let bad plays spiral. I'll tell one more story before I get out of here. When I was a young player, I guess I wasn't even that young. I was in my third year. I just spent a year and a half with Josh McDaniels, and it was the worst year and a half of my life. It was the most miserable experience I've ever had. The coaches are miserable. The secretaries are miserable. Players are miserable. It was a terrible environment, and the only form of coaching is you suck. And I'd been told I sucked so much over and over and over every single day that, you know what, I got to a point in my career where I was really doubting my own ability to play in this league. And I got traded out to Seattle. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it was a fun, positive environment. I had coaches that believed in me. And my coach, Tom Cable, he pulls me aside in practice after I gave up a sack. And he says, Tyler, what's the difference between you and Russell Okung? Russell was our young left tackle. You guys probably know him. He played here in Denver. He was our young left tackle. I think he was a top 10 pick at the time. And I said, I don't know. He's probably better. And he said, no. The only difference between you and Russ, you've got every bit the same amount of talent as Russ. But the only difference is he knows how to flush a bad play and you don't. When you have a bad play, you tend to let that turn into 3 or 4 more bad plays after it. When you learn how to flush a bad play, there won't be a better tackle in the NFL than you are. And that took me some time to learn how to do that. It took maturity. It took a certain level of confidence in myself, and I got there. And I'm not worried about Bo Nix's confidence, but unfortunately today, he did what a lot of young football players do, including myself. He let a bad play spiral into 3 bad plays. And it was really more than 3. There probably could have been 4 interceptions. So Bo's a very confident man. Just listen to Sean. He'll tell you that. And I'm sure he's going to rebound just fine, but keep an eye on it. Just keep an eye on it because that's a tough thing for young players to do. I'll answer this question here from Leo. Leo asks, what seed would you rather get? Would you rather play the Chiefs or Buffalo? So there's kind of 3 realistic scenarios for the Broncos. Chiefs, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. And in order, my preference would be Pittsburgh, Chiefs, Buffalo. I would prefer to play the Pittsburgh Steelers because I think that's a matchup that fits the Denver Broncos very, very well. And then after that, I very reluctantly put the Chiefs second because Patrick Mahomes is still the quarterback. And last I heard, he was in the running to be the greatest of all time. And you, generally speaking, don't want to play quarterbacks that are in the running to be greatest of all the time in playoffs. But the Chiefs are a weird team this year, and I do think they're beatable. Buffalo's scary, man. I know they survived by the skin of their teeth today against the Lions, but that's a good football team. So that would be in order how I'd like to see it. All right, guys. I will, for all you guys that are watching right now, I've got about 800 people on this stream right now, 700 some on Twitter, and a bunch over there on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, do yourself a favor, do me a favor. Go into my bio, hit the link in my bio, and go hit subscribe on my YouTube right now. And make sure you hit the alerts as well because I put out a ton of awesome content over there that is exclusive only to YouTube. So right now I'm streaming live. A lot of times I don't do it live and I just put content out on YouTube. On Tuesday, I'll put out the All 22. So I'll watch the coach's film. I've got some cool software. I'm able to do the lines, do the circles, break it all down for you. From what I've learned, all this software is really cool. I can track very, very easily what videos hit, what videos do not hit. And you guys love that coach's film. So I'll put that out on Tuesday. We will have another reaction to this on Monday. We do pregame, postgame reports. I do scouting reports, and we do live watch-alongs. So if you would do me a favor and go subscribe there over on YouTube, I'd really, really be grateful. And for those of you guys that really love me, I'm trying like crazy to grow my YouTube right now, and it's growing at a crazy fast pace. But if you could just do me one huge solid, comment on this video right now. Just say, "Hey, Polumbus, you're an idiot," and then hit the like button. And that does crazy things for the algorithm. So if even just 5 or 10 of you guys would just send in a quick comment, put an emoji, do whatever, that does crazy things for the algorithm, and it really helps me grow and helps me to put out awesome content for you guys. So until I meet you guys again, which will be very soon, appreciate all you guys. That was a good win. We all get to take a deep breath. I hope you guys didn't break your TVs like I wanted to, and